Hi, welcome to a new episode in the Internet Surfer, hosting the most horror and creepiest stories from Reddit. Please don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy.
Reddit, what is the worst heartbreak you've ever had? Episode 2. She cheated on me in 2012 with one of my friends who went to a school nearby. I had never felt so helpless. I could do nothing because she didn't care. I lost all self-worth. Fast forward a year. Out of the blue my buddy calls me in need of a favor. He needs a wingman for the night, his girl has a friend for me. Okay. This will be fun. I think and I tell him yes. Turns out the friend were my ex, bit of a move, but no matter. All three kind of ganged up on me wanting us to get back together. We had a great night and ended up spending the night with each other. We started to talk more, but I was reluctant to get close. I knew at any moment something was bound to go wrong. Because of this she tried really hard to get me to commit. My attempts to stay at a distance only made her put on an irresistible guise that made me fall harder than ever for her. We dated a few months, she met my parents, grandparents, friends, etc. That was a first, things were going great, but when I fell for her she seemed to stop caring. She didn't put in any effort into the relationship anymore. I started to feel so bad because she was growing apart from me and I had no idea why or how I could fix it. One weekend I was having a really terrible day. She had been ignoring me since the middle of the week. I get a phone call from an old friend who goes to the neighboring school. I don't think that many tears have ever fallen out of anybody's eyes that quickly. She cheated on me the night before. Again. With the same guy. Whom, I might add, I had talked things over with and had put our differences aside. Until then, I've lost sleep and friends. I hated myself for the past few months. I never thought depression was a real disease/illness, I figured being sad was easily fixable, sadness is, not depression, but now I know. It's oppressive. I've contemplated suicide. I never really thought to do it or anything. It just pops into my mind every so often how easy it would be to drive off this bridge or into traffic. All the pain I feel would just stop. I've talked to girls since then, but it always finds a reason to not want to see them. It's hard, and I really don't have anyone to talk to about it because nobody in my life really understands my pain. But my friends are supportive and my family loves me boundlessly. I will get through this.
My boyfriend at the time dumped me for the final and second time. We lived together, so I found out over email that he no longer loved me and that I had to move out. I emailed him while he was at work, saying how I loved him and that I want to work on things. He was emotionally abusive to me in our relationship, and that day I had to just pick up all my things and go back to my parents. I had a breakdown and almost went to hospital, had to get my mom to hold me until I fell asleep. Later, I found out that he was bad-mouthing me to his 40-year-old friend over email while we were still together, saying how he joined a dating site and sent pics to girls. I was lucky enough to have a job where my boss was supportive, despite me just starting 2 months ago. I felt like I was dying. I put my heart and soul into that relationship. All the abuse just broke me down. He tried to get me back twice, only to reject me again and make up excuses and ignore me. Therapy didn't help, but I started to get into fitness and health, and it saved my life. Actually, having my cat did. My family were great, but the fact that I wanted to stay alive to look after her saved me. If I died, my parents couldn't afford to look after her, plus I saw how scared my parents were. 2 years later, I am 29 and feel like a new person. Good job, studying, saving up for a big trip, have amazing friends and family. I am glad it went through that. It made me into a better person. He, on the other hand, was miserable and depressed because he moved to another state and had no friends and nothing went as planned. He is back now, but I don't give a chance, as he will always be an abusive person.
I had a girlfriend, but I met this other girl. Let's call her L. She had a boyfriend. We stayed as friends for 2 years. Long story short, we were both in love with each other but never did anything about it because we were both in relationships. We would go out to dinner, and do everything that couples would. At the end, she stopped talking to me. I think it may have been because she felt guilty. I was devastated, and it was that moment I knew I was in love with her. My girlfriend and I broke up soon after that. Then a year went by. Every single day ever since I lost Elle I was a mess. I could not think straight, my heart rate was constantly so high I would almost pass out just from getting out of a chair. Every time I saw a girl with black hair, an Asian girl, because she was Asian, or went to the mall, where we hung out a lot, it made me so upset. I would flirt with Asian girls and try to get dates with them to help fill that void because they reminded me of her so much. I missed her so much, but we left things in such a bad way that we could never go back. One night, I was about to kill myself when instead, I called her. A whole year had gone by. We talked and long story short, we made plans to get together again. She came over the next night, we gave each other a big hug. We missed each other so much. We went to my house and stayed up until 5 in the morning just talking. The next day we made plans again. I found out she had a BF, she was reluctant to tell me. I was single and didn't care to be honest. I was just happy to be with her. That night she came over again and this time, we had sex. Afterwards, she felt bad that she cheated on her BF with me. We both got upset because we were repeating past events. Then we parted ways again, and we blocked each other on Facebook. She blocked me first, and it broke my heart. Every now and then, I would search her name but wouldn't get anything. I would put her name on Google even, hoping to learn how she is doing / if she is well etc. Then one day, I noticed she unblocked me on Facebook. I'm still unblocked, and every now and then I look at her Facebook to see how she is doing. But every time I do, it breaks my heart more and more. I've been meaning to call her, or send her a message, but I don't even know what to say or do. It's been 2 years since last time we talked. She's a part of me that I can never let go, we know everything about each other. She's the one thing in my life that holds me back.
15 years old. I know, crazy. I'm 29, divorced, and still this was the worst for me. We dated 9 months. He dumps me out of the blue. I went to summer camp, forgot to tell him, didn't talk to him for a week. Came back and he broke up with me. The worst part, did not know why. I had a high school sweetheart, broke up after high school, didn't really faze me even though it was a much longer relationship. Married 9 years, divorced, didn't faze me. Never cried a tear for either of these guys. I stopped caring about that first boyfriend in the middle of high school, so I wasn't like crazy about the breakup, but I also never feel safe in a relationship. I never put my eggs in one basket. It just completely turned my views on it around. No one is around forever. No one has ever broken up with me since I was 15. I've always been the breaker-upper. I'm engaged now to the love of my life. It's the first time I've ever been completely myself around someone. He's literally perfect for me. But still, if he dumped me tomorrow, life goes on.
Worst heartbreak? It can get worse. If it's up to me, my last heartbreak will remain my last heartbreak. It was also my first, mind you. Never in my life have I felt more crushed, but most of all, helpless. You cannot do anything, that's the problem. It's so total. Spent days in bed staring at the ceiling, woke up with massive incubus in my chest, dreams about how she calls me crying acknowledging her mistake, trying to fall asleep while having images of her being intimate with the guy for which she abandoned me. I still wake up in my bed sometimes in the middle of the night, thinking about how it's all so weird, that she used to frequent this bed for so many nights, and that this was so long ago, broke up June 2012, and yet I keep sleeping in my bed and the world goes on and it's like it never really happened, you know? Hard to explain, but I don't ever want to fall in love again. It isn't worth it. And I'm not saying that out of a bitter, love stinks attitude. Not at all, love can be amazing, but me, personally, I do not want to put myself in hazard to feel this holocaust I felt when she left me. Anyhow, you know it's true, not a cliché at all, time is the greatest healer, but not only time. For good things I found to help, meditation and mindfulness, disco music, going back to your hobbies, and rekindling old friendships. Also, read Schopenhauer. Every parting gives a foretaste of death, every reunion a hint of the resurrection.
Not trying to make fun here, but it can sound humorous when an older person hears high school kids say, "Promise you'll love me forever." Maybe you just don't realize all the changes going on within you and without you, but I can assure you they are great. Having gone through it, I can tell you that many of your higher brain functions really don't come online until you're in your mid to late 20s. Call it maturity, call it whatever, but after a certain point you stop getting so worked up over things. So you have that to look forward to. Also, perhaps you have heard the expression, brothers before hoes. If you've got brothers, now is the time to lean on them hard. I was just watching the movie Rashomon last night about a bandit who ties up a samurai and likes his wife in front of him. Then the wife says, "You have to kill my husband. I can't have two men knowing of my shame." The bandit is shocked by this. He throws the woman on the ground and asks the man, "What do you want me to do with her?" And the man thinks at that point he almost could have forgiven him. Anyhow, the point is sometimes you just got to get together with your brothers and just bash all women for being lying, cheating sluts. It eases the pain.
I suppose I should. Well, I'm in the 12th grade now, and I started dating her in the summer before the 10th grade. She told me she had a crush on me since she first saw me, and I was in a time where I was afraid to be heartbroken by anyone. I liked her and decided this is a girl I can trust with my heart. We dated and things were perfect. I had never been happier in my life. She made me promise to never leave her, and promised she would never leave. After the 2-year mark, things went downhill. She lost interest and broke up with me. I was devastated. Seeing her on the school bus every morning and afternoon was painful. And then she realized she wanted me back. So we dated again, but it was different. She left the second time after dating me for a week. Again, I was broken. She had a new boyfriend the next day, which was extra salt on the wound. It still hurts now. Though it's nice to tell my poorly written story, smiley face.
I dated my absolute best friend in the world. It was the most amazing feeling knowing we could be both best friends and lovers, and was the best relationship dynamic I'd ever had. I was happy every single day. A few months in, his grandmother died and he started acting weird. He said it was due to stress. But 3 months later, he was still acting weird. He hadn't been that close with his grandma, so I knew something was up. It hurt me every day for those 3 months because something was different, but I couldn't figure out what. I tried everything I could to get things back to normal. We weren't having sex or having fun conversations. He also stopped complimenting me, and whenever we watched TV, he would make it a point to admire the beautiful girls, something he never did before. It hurt my self-esteem really bad. But still, he wouldn't admit anything was wrong. I finally confronted him and said I'd be gone if he didn't own up to whatever was bothering him. As it turns out, He didn't have feelings for me anymore for those 3 entire months. He was too scared to tell me because he didn't want to hurt me or lose me as a friend. I can't even explain this sinking feeling in my chest. It hurt so badly. I became extremely depressed and would cry on my lunch breaks, sometimes even at work. I cried driving, before bed, in the shower. Completely lost my sex drive and appetite. I cried. After I calmed down a few months later, we were semi-talking again, but nothing like it used to be. It killed me that he one day had feelings for me and the next day just didn't. But some part of me knew he'd regret it eventually. Not long after, I met an amazing man. I totally wasn't ready to date, so we took it very, very slow. I'm in love with him and am sure he's the man I'm going to marry one day. And as I suspected, my ex admitted that he has feelings for me and regrets not realizing it before. Too bad.
It was heartbreak I experienced where I'd done the breaking up. We'd been together for 2 years, and the relationship that was once unbelievably passionate went sour and we started to be really horrible to each other. But we still loved each other. It got to the point where I broke it off because I realized we couldn't treat each other like that. This is where it got really heartbreaking for me. I had to watch from a distance as the girl I'd been in love with and cared about massively went down a slippery slope, suffering from depression and then an eating disorder where she got dangerously skinny and hanging about with a bad group of people. I couldn't intervene or get involved because it was I who caused it, and it was my fault. Then a few months went by, and she rang me, which often happened when she was drunk. She was really upset, and I asked her what was wrong. She told me of how she'd let a man stay the night with her a few weeks back. I immediately went to see her and we held each other and cried. This begun the worst heartbreak I'd ever and probably will ever experience, as I was merely a spectator to the horrible things that had happened to my ex. I had to keep a distance during the court case for her sanity or I could give false signs of hope. It was truly horrible, and I'm still not over it. She now has a new boyfriend, which I hope is going well, simply because she deserves happiness more than anything now.
Broke up just over 2 months ago. We were together for almost 4 beautiful years. He was a good boyfriend, I was a good girlfriend, and we had our issues but worked through them. He couldn't work through it this time. He needed to find himself. I agreed because I didn't want him to hate me and I felt I could use some time as well. Tried a break for 2 weeks. I couldn't eat or sleep much during those 2 weeks and I lost weight. We broke up a week before I started at my new school. We were on good terms, but that first month was hell. It's still a bit hellish even now. But going to therapy and talking to my friends and family a lot and being in a totally new environment at my university has all helped so much. It still hurts, but I'm growing and learning about myself. He helped me grow up out of high school and the first part of college. He was my first real love after dating some idiots, and I was his first girlfriend and love. So I think we're both a bit messed up for a bit. Me less so at this point, but I know it's going to still take more time for me to really move on and let go of the hope I have of reconciliation. All in all, I feel better in the fact that we broke it off now instead of staying together and getting married and divorcing.
Last week. She texted me that she wanted us to try and be friends again, so we can rebuild a stronger foundation for our relationship. While it could be worse, she wants to better our relationship, but won't accept any other way. Through talking to her, I know she blames me, and I her. Communication fell apart, but when we started dating, I truly felt in love. I have never felt the way that she has made me feel, on both ends of the spectrum of happiness. This week has been ridiculously hard, even though I can still see and talk to her. Perhaps that makes it more difficult. I just feel like what I had is gone, and while I don't want to give up hope, it is quite a hopeless feeling to be brought back down to earth.
Miscarried the baby my husband and I had tried for a year to make. Went skiing to distract myself. Got my knee badly broken in an accident. Had to have massive painkillers for months. Got addicted. Asked husband for help getting off pills. For some reason, he responded with anger and didn't help, but left pills around the house to test me. Ended up going to rehab. Everyone else in the rehab got their families and friends back as a result of getting help. My husband came in after 2 weeks and told me he was divorcing me. Lost my job, house, marriage, baby, dog, husband, and some judgmental friends because I had been addicted. Okay, life goes on, right? So I get my life back together, working, got an apartment, met a new man, all in the space of a year. Was doing okay. Then my brother, my only sibling, went into the hospital and died 8 days later of a mysterious illness. He was my best friend, and my boyfriend loved him too. It was awful. Boyfriend then gets mysteriously, horribly ill. Turns out it's Lyme plus 2 other confections. Then 14 months later, my mom died. So I'm an orphan. No other family members alive. I won't be having kids now. Miscarriage messed something up. Boyfriend and I live together. He's too sick to work and I've supported us both for the past 6 years, plus had to spend all my savings on medical care for him because our health care system sucks giant carafes of donkey ween. We'd been dating for a few years, but he moved away for a new job. Distance broke us down painfully slowly. Our phone calls, messages, communications became shorter. Our visits were gradually more awkward. It's not like when someone's there and you can see things changing. It all came in short bursts of days every few months. His habits had changed, his manner of speaking and his interests. I'd changed too, but still I was in our hometown with all of the old ghosts and he just didn't feel like he belonged there anymore. He met someone else, who he married. We'd talk, we'd catch up, spend time together as if nothing had happened when he was in town, or when he was fighting with his spouse. This went on for 2 years or so. He decided he was going to make a go of things with his wife, and that we couldn't see each other anymore. I ran into him recently. He's still married. They have kids now. He looks happier than he ever was. At the end of it all, I'm happy that he's happy, but I still feel like a fool for still loving him and guilty for what we did.
My worst heartbreak was the loss of my pony last year. She got me through nearly everything and was always the one I turned to tell and to vent all my problems to. I'd ride her for hours some days and just talk thoughts and feelings to her, and to this day I swear she understood. She didn't get angry with me or tell me I was pathetic, she just seemed to listen to what I said and then get on with her life. I did some of my best thinking and decision-making with her. She got really ill last year and died with her head laid on my lap. That day I lost probably my best and sometime my only friend. The irony of the situation is that only she could have got me through something like that. I don't think I've ever felt loss or sadness like it, and it's certainly not something I ever want to feel again. I had been hanging out with this guy, Andy, for a few months. We were never officially dating, but it meant something to me because I lost my virginity to him. We talked on the phone constantly because he traveled for work, and when he was back in town, he'd just stay at my apartment. Fast forward to 8 months later. He had been home for about 2 months, and had stopped staying over because he had found his own place not far from mine. We hadn't talked in over a week and I was a little bummed about it. My roommate, Kay, an alcoholic slut, told me she was going to meet some friends at the bar and she'd be back later. When she left, I invited some friends over to drink and play video games. A few hours later, I've got a good buzz going and I'm having a great time with my friends and not even thinking about what's his name. Then Kay stumbles through the door, giggling, with Andy right behind her. They were both hammered. My buzz was immediately gone. Kay tells me she has to get up early for work, so she's going to bed, and drags Andy down the hall with her. I tried to ignore it, but the pit in my stomach grew bigger and bigger until it completely engulfed me. I broke down and polished off the rest of the crown we had been drinking just so I wouldn't have to lay awake and hear them ducking in the next room. The next morning, he left before her, and by the time she got up, she didn't remember that he had even come over. I moved out a week later. Not a romantic heartbreak, but a platonic one. This girl was crazy, beautiful, alluring, and completely toxic. She was my roommate and like a sister to me, and I, her for those years in college where youth and time seemed boundless. I believed in her, despite everyone's warnings. Found her a job, paid for 3 terms of college, stood up for her. Well, she was going nowhere quick. Yet, I still believed. To this day, I have no clue what caused me to stick by her so long. The last I saw of her, she was blowing coke off of some guy's stuff. In the apartment I paid for. Using money I lent her. Kicked her out that night. I heard she got kicked out of college, too. Funny thing is, in some weird way, I still care for her and hope she's doing well. I've never known such heartache and letdown. I've always favored friendships with other chicks, but she jaded me in a way that can never be mended. The silent treatment is like emotional abuse for the other person. It really does hurt. I used to have a crush on this girl in high school and she knew it, so she took advantage of it. She used to make me carry her bag, do her homework and buy her lunch. I was blinded by love and believed that doing these things would make her love me. On the rare occasions where I did develop a backbone and would say no to her, she would give me the silent treatment. It was the worst thing imaginable, to have someone treat you as if you don't exist. I can see how it would kill relationships and break people's self-esteem. On the plus side though, I've been through it so much I'm pretty much immune to it now. Dated for 5 years. Lived together. Slowly grew apart as they became competitive with me, worked in the same field. They began seeing someone and keeping secrets. We went to Italy for a conference together, where they told me on a hill it was over. We had to live in a dorm room for the remaining week, during which I heard the ex have Skype sex. The stress aggravated a heart condition I didn't know I had. Collapsed, grew sick abroad. Upon landing in the US, the new G/F, another colleague of ours, picked us up and I was dumbfounded. The next day, all of their belongings were in boxes. We worked, lived together, ex worked for my mother also, shared an office, etc. They wore a promise ring with the new partner after only 2 weeks and posted pictures in which they were smiling and kicking what was once our front door. I had heart surgery. I did not engage and focused instead on getting healthy and finishing my degree. I'm happily married to someone else and haven't given them much of a thought since. Worst heartbreak happened 2 years ago. We were happy together until bad thoughts started to get into my head, suicide, cutting myself, etc. She stayed with me all throughout, always helping me if I needed anything. I understand that now. Because one day, while we were having a party, her best friend comes up to me and says that she thinks this guy is cute. And I overreacted. Got pissed, gave her a cold shoulder the entire day. She eventually got tired of my shit and decided to break up with me. Went through depression and lots of cutting and lots of thinking about suicide. Took me a year and a half to finally realize that I was the reason we broke up. I overreacted. I'm happy as ever and going out with a girl since 2 weeks ago. But if she were to come back, I'd probably apologize to her big time. She didn't deserve me or my depression crap. She deserved better. No one deserves to go through what I went through. No one. Not even the people I hate. My fiancée was 1,200 miles away doing an internship for 3 months. I went to visit her for 10 days. I came home and 2 weeks later she dumped me over the phone. The love letters continued to show up for a few days. We had been living together and I worked for her parents. Every significant thing in my life was destroyed overnight, without warning. Then to make it worse, she waffled a little bit just when I was starting to get over her. And then, a couple of months later I got a call from the jewelry store saying she had tried to return the ring I was still paying off. I have to say, with perspective, she wasn't wrong to end it. I had issues for sure. We both did. It was a long time ago and I've been very happily married for 23 years, so remember, no matter how bad it feels at the time you will get over it. My ex broke up with me almost 6 months ago. We dated for about 9 months and it was honestly the most incredible 9 months of my life. They had a huge family gathering on a Sunday and at some point during that day, I stopped and said to myself, wow. This girl, her family. They are all incredible. I want to spend the rest of my life with them. The following Tuesday she broke up with me and moved on to a new guy. I would like to date again but I really don't know if I could or not. I love the idea of falling in love again but 2 seconds later I tend to remind myself I'll just get hurt again. That's why in the last 6 months I haven't even had a halfways decent conversation with a girl.
Thanks for watching. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. The Internet Surfer on YouTube for more horror and scary stories.